Greetings from Costa Rica. The Lord has given my wife and I 40 years of service in missions in Costa Rica and Latin America. It has been a full life in many ways. The Lord has given us healthy children, grandchildren, the opportunity to serve in a variety of ministries, and a measure of health and strength. There have indeed been many struggles, but the Lord is good, and we can certainly say, Ebenezer, thus far has the Lord helped us. If the Lord gives us health and strength, we don't consider our work done by any means, but we wanted to take this opportunity at 40 years to share what the Lord has done in various ministries that we've been involved in. And so we'd like to share in this video the different aspects that the Lord has given us the privilege to serve in.
I met my future wife in high school in Edgerton, Minnesota, where my father was pastoring at that time. We dated through college at Dordt and married our last year. From there we traveled to California, where I attended first Westminster Seminary, graduating with an MDiv degree, and later studied at Calvin Seminary, obtaining my THM degree. Having signed up for missions with the Christian Reformed World Missions Board, we were assigned to Costa Rica in 1984, traveling on January 1, 1985. Children were born, 4 of them. They grew up in Costa Rica. They later married, 3 of the 4, and had their own children. We are now the proud grandparents of 10 grandchildren. All of them are gorgeous. Some of them may be a bit crazy. Maybe they take after their grandpa. I don't know. Dogs have always been a part of the Green family. Those of you who have been to Costa Rica know that. We used to need them for protection, but our latest arrival, Osa, the Rottweiler, is so obedient and docile, she self-quarantines in her cage. Here is Osa in the cage with the door open. I won't be able to tell this story in the order of events because there are many aspects of our ministry and they all happened simultaneously. So I'm going to divide this into parts. First of all, the grade school. Upon working in church planting for a short time, Aletha and I realized that the cultural and religious context of Costa Rica was so complex that Christian schooling was going to be absolutely necessary if we wanted a future generation of Christians. Church services and Sunday school were not sufficient to combat the tremendous societal forces arrayed against a biblical worldview. So in 1993, we began kindergarten classes in our church. We expanded rapidly, adding grades up to 6th grade in just a few years. You can see 3 of our own children in this picture. Construction of the grade school. In 1995, we were able to purchase an adjacent lot, and with the help of North American work teams, as well as local Costa Rican workers, construction began on the grade school. It was a huge undertaking, considering the earthquake codes that must be fulfilled. This job was indeed a joint effort. Some churches in the United States even built spec houses and sold them to provide funding for the construction project. Other teams came down to help. We finally finished the grade school after approximately 8 years of construction. The front was left like this for many years, and some people thought we were running a reformatory. It sort of looks like a prison. And since the name Reformed is on our logo, it wasn't until last year that an anonymous donor from Canada gave us money to finally make our school look like a school. And here, Joanna, our principal, she couldn't be happier. This was Aletha's office for 15 years. She led the school all the way into high school, maneuvering the accreditation process with the government, which I might add was a terribly bureaucratic process. From the beginning, school chapel has always been a highlight of the week as the students sing, share memory verses, and listen to a speaker. I have joined them many, many times, and it is always a joy. The high school. Our grade school building was never meant to serve as a high school, even though we had to stuff the high school into the grade school for many years. In faith, beginning in 1995, a few individuals began paying on a lot 4 miles away, up in the mountains, just outside the city limits. The goal was a future high school. Our family has never been adverse to slave labor, and our children were sent to open up the road. We decided it was now or never. That year was the year 2000. At the beginning, all the work was done by hand, shoveling by hand, pumping water for the cement from a nearby spring. And little by little, the news got out. Work teams began coming. The work was grueling, all by hand, as I said. Today, it's sort of all a blur. But the Lord sent down one army of servants after another. Money was always scarce, it seemed, but little by little advances were made on this massive project. The housing crash of 2008-2009 affected severely the progress of the construction, and for years there was no advance. The building sat idle. Birds and bats made their homes here. At last we could make a final push, finishing in 2018. As you can see, we now have a massive and magnificent high school building with 12 gorgeous classrooms, a nice cafeteria in the middle. The last necessary piece was an auditorium. Work was begun in 2020 and finished that same year. We could hire a local contractor to do the work, and we have today a beautiful modern auditorium which serves 3 ministries: the school, the congregation that I pastor, the Pacto de Gracia congregation, as well as the Latin America Fellowship of Reformed Churches, or CLEAR, that I serve as secretary, and we'll talk more about CLEAR a bit later. Here are some pictures of the inside of the auditorium used by the high school, the church, and for conferences for CLEAR. Some pictures of our high school students. So let's talk about church planting. From the very beginning, our life in Costa Rica and up to the present, Alita and I have been involved in church planting, and we are presently serving in our 3rd church plant. We are fully convinced of the Lord's call, and by God's grace, He has blessed the preaching of the Word, bringing old and young into the church. The young couple on the left are pillars in our church up till today. Jilson has served for decades now as deacon, and the little girl being baptized there is now 17 years old. Some of the kids shown here are now married. One has 2 children and is a deacon in our church. Praise the Lord with us for His everlasting mercy that indeed enfolds generations into His covenant family. The oldest member we ever baptized was Don Manuel at 80 years of age. He was dying in the hospital. He knew he wasn't ready to meet the Lord, and in his coma he cried out to the Lord, who spared his life. Upon coming home, he sought me out, and he insisted that I evangelize him. He received the Lord, and we had Don Manuel with us for 3 beautiful years. He was always the first to be at church. He died on a Christmas Eve, died in the Lord, and many from the church attended his funeral. This is just one of many wonderful testimonies that we could share. Yamil is the tallest fella that I've ever baptized. I almost needed a ladder to climb up. We are thrilled at the fact that God has brought entire families into our church, along with children and babies. In some cases, couples had never been officially married, even though they had families and older children. So we had marriage ceremonies and then baptisms of the entire family. Some years ago, our church looked like this. Some years later, it looked like this. And today, pretty much, this is our present congregation. So let's talk about CLEAR. We need to talk about the Latin America Fellowship of Reformed Churches, CLEAR in Spanish. In 1997, I was called by the Bethany United Reformed Church in Michigan to serve as executive secretary for this newly formed Association of Reformed Churches. Money was again scarce, but I figured we could begin by printing a theological journal for the member churches, in spite of the fact that I didn't know anything about printing. We were given a small press by the Escondido United Reformed Church, and I put it in our house, but my wife wasn't going to allow a smelly printing press in the house for very long. So we set about building a print shop in our backyard, again with slave labor. My sons learned a lot about construction, about building with cement, about welding, and different practical talents on all the projects that they've been a privilege to be part of. They were a huge help to us at every stage. The plan was to put the print shop over the garage. Not a brilliant idea, but the only solution for the time being. Heavy printing presses shouldn't be put on upstairs floors, but as I said, it was the only option available to us at that time. And besides, I've never been accused of not being crazy, so up they went. Once again, there were many groups who came to support the printing operation. But my faithful son in the faith and my right-hand man is Lester Martinez. Lester started with me right out of high school in 2000, and today he is the administrator of our entire program. He is married and has 2 adopted sons. We outgrew the upstairs as God blessed the printing, and we moved the cars outside and occupied the garage. Pretty soon everything was so cramped it was difficult to carry out our work. As I look back, it is a testimony to God's power that we were able to produce as much as we did under the crazy circumstances. After the high school was finished in 2018, we could move the whole shop up to a ground floor at the high school, and now, thankfully, we have a 1-level print shop with more room.
This is one of 17 different covers that we are printing full color. This particular series is a series against cults and sects. So here we are in our print shop. Lester, Max is filming, the other guys are binding, always trying to make our process more efficient, to be the best stewards as possible of the donations that we receive and the money that we receive. So take care and have a great day.
My work with CLEAR took me to many countries, most countries of Latin America, for conferences. One of the goals of CLEAR is not only printing good material and helping to coordinate theological education between different churches in different countries, but also confronting the cultural lies that hold people in bondage. We have had a strong emphasis on teaching, apologetics, and discipleship. I feel that my education equipped me especially for this task. I thank the Lord over and over again for the opportunity He gave me to be able to study. Sometimes travel was by vehicle in Central America, or obviously by air to South America. Sometimes we spoke to large groups, and sometimes we spoke to smaller groups. I served many times as translator for other teachers and for preachers. Once in a while, Aletha left her duties at school and joined me on trips. It looks like she wants to take that cannon back home. I don't know who she wants to shoot. I hope it's not her husband. We love the cultural differences in Latin America. Food is one of them. Delicious food everywhere we go. This delicacy in Tabasco, Mexico didn't appeal this time to Aletha. This is turtle soup with the whole turtle in the soup. So I had to eat it by myself. On other occasions, we participated in some of the massive celebrations of our brothers in Mexico. On this occasion of the 75th anniversary of a church, 7 cows were butchered, 5 hogs. It was made into barbecue. Over 1,000 people were present, and I was asked to preach for the closing ceremony. We've made many friends in different countries, but our principal goal is to bring folks to reflect on Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. Some of you are aware of my motorcycle accident last year, in which I ended up with a fractured pelvis and a broken wrist. However, I just want to say that the motorcycle has allowed us to take the gospel to places we couldn't have gotten to in a regular vehicle. From the very beginning of our ministry, my wife and I have been cognizant that we are very mortal, finite, not eternal. We have sought to serve Christ's kingdom and His glory, and we have sought to train and equip others to carry on the work after us. To that end, our Christian high school maintains a constant in-house training and discipleship program for all our personnel, so that each professor might understand and apply a truly biblical, Christ-centered education. If Christ tarries, our Christian school will serve the cause of the kingdom in education for many years to come, with or without the greens. At the print shop and Clear, my insights have been passed to Lester and in turn to our whole team, which today is a tight-knit, very committed group of young people. Most of these folks are members of our own Pacto de Gracia congregation. Lester himself is now a pastor of one of our other churches. Again, if Christ tarries, you can feel confident that Clear will continue its work with or without the greens. The training of elders and deacons has always been a priority, and God has given us committed men for this job at the Pacto de Gracia Church. In fact, during my absence from the country, the elders are alone pastoring the congregation. We don't have the luxury of extra pastors nearby. With or without Bill Green, the church must move forward. All this is to say that the Costa Rica Reformed Mission today has a solid foundation for the future. We trust and pray that continued support will go for the school and for Clear. My wife and I will continue our work as long as the Lord directs, but we can all be thankful for this huge, broad base of committed Christians that today are the fruit of our 40 years of ministry that has been blessed by God's grace.
Well, I hope that you have enjoyed this video. I hope it's been informative. As I conclude this presentation, I want to say that any successful mission needs the support of the sending churches. And of course, this has been a team effort. Churches in the United States and Canada praying, giving, and coming in some cases to make all this possible. And so we give thanks to the Lord, and we are thankful to those who have been supportive of all the projects here that we have been involved in for these 40 years. And I want to finish by saying, the Lord said the fields are white to harvest. He has His harvest. And I want to say to anyone listening to this video, And any young person considering God's call for your life to consider the cause of missions. We need missionaries. We need long-term missionaries. We need supporting churches, short-term mission projects, but we need long-term missionaries as well. And so I'd like to conclude this by leaving a challenge to you to consider God's call for serving in the cause of missions. God bless you all.